Welcome in, guys. It's Brad with College Sportscast, and we're here. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks. This week to do the big fuss show.
Can I please have your attention?
There's all a commotion around here.
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.
All right, go time. I'm back with John Hammonds. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man?
We are here to do the big fuss show. We haven't done these in a couple of weeks because of Thanksgiving. And then I was actually kind of not feeling too great last Tuesday. So we skipped last Tuesday. So we hadn't done these for a couple of weeks, but perfect timing because the college football world is in uproars over this whole college football playoff rankings, which I knew. I actually said for 2 weeks that there was going to be at least one or two teams that was really going to be upset when it was all said and done. But we're not going to jump straight into that. We are going to get into that quite a bit tonight, but I'm not going to jump straight into that. First, I want to say that we are presented by the Fanboys. And I just now noticed that our brand logo is not on the screen for some reason. I'm going to try to get that up.
There. Well, it went up, then it went back out.
Well, how about now?
Yeah, it's up there now.
There it is. All right. So, yeah, the Big Fuss Show. We're presented by the Fanboys. Go to Home Field. They're having a 12 days of Christmas thing going on, specials each day starting, I think, December 1st or 2nd. You can go and they're going to have specials. Today is a mystery box. You can get a gift for $20. It's actually like a 40% savings. You can go there, use our link, go to our link tree. The very top of our link tree is our Home Field Apparel link. And you can use our link and we'll get credit for that. So go there, check them out. They have over 180 teams. On this mystery box, you do not get to pick the team. You don't get to pick the shirt or whatever it is that you're going to get. It's a mystery box for today, but it's only $20 instead of $36. So you're saving quite a bit of money. And I'm sure it'll be something vintage and cool and fun, and you'll enjoy it. You can give it as a gift. All right. With that said, going to go into some news and some hot topics. Of course, there's no bigger hot topic than the college football, the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So the transfer portal, opened yesterday. In one day, there was 631 FBS college football players that entered into the portal in one day. It's pretty wild what's actually going on in college athletics. What do you think, John?
It's not even FBS. It's FCS, Division I. Well, Division
I'm
II.
not talking about FCS and Division II and all this. I'm just saying in FBS, 631 players entered.
That's and it's getting even more
Just in
larger
that division.
as the minute goes by, and just now we had a big name drop in the portal. Rocket Sanders from Arkansas. He's going to be a big fish in the pond. And
Yeah, I mean,
if
he's a
you
great
think,
back.
I'm telling you, there's going to be more like this, and there's going to be bigger names. And I feel like whoever has the most NIL money is going to win on a lot of these guys. Whoever can throw the most money at these players are going to win a lot of these sweepstakes. So it's going to be interesting to see, to be honest.
I mean, there's a lot of names in the portal, John. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names in the portal that just kind of blows you away. I mean, McCord, starting quarterback from Ohio State. Dylan Gabriel transferring again out of Oklahoma, 2-year starter, is probably going to finish top 8 or 9 in the Heisman Trophy votes this year. I mean, he was that good of a season. Cam Ward, Washington State, 2-year starter there. I mean, there's just a lot of names from places that have been starters, and they're putting their name in the transfer portal.
And I think Clemson had a couple guys. I think a couple DBs. They had a few DBs. I think they had a running back. So Clemson's going to have to retool their rosters too. So everybody's going to be retooling. This is the new normal. I basically said it last week. It's the NFL free agency without the salary cap. Basically, it's what it boils down to, and it's a free for all. Let's just be.
It's just wild to see 2-year starters and stuff go into the transfer portal. You know what I mean? Like you would think if you were, a starter and doing well and leading a good team like Ohio State, and you would want to stay there and stick around.
Well, and another thing too, I was telling somebody today, I don't know if it was something I read earlier. There was one quarterback, it might have been a quarterback, running back, somebody, but they had been in college for 7 years. 7 through the portal. 7 years as a player. Now, folks.
And still putting their name in the portal now.
Yeah. Again and again. Yeah, like it's pretty wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's crazy what's going on for sure. So that was just yesterday. That is not including any numbers from today. That was just the first day, the 631.
And this is just the screen. And this is just the start of it.
So and
there'll be more by Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's supposed to go 45 days again. I thought they passed earlier this year that they were going to cut it to 30 days. They talked about it. I thought they passed it, but apparently it's not in effect yet or something. I'm not sure, but something needs to be done. I mean, it's crazy if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I had to start with that. Another thing that I wanted to really kind of dig into here with you tonight, and this is going to blow people's minds probably, because I would think most people think that the Pac-12 is going to disappear. However, that's not the case. So today, Washington State and Oregon State announced that they are going to continue the Pac-12. And I'm about to tell you here's how. I got 3 points here, and this is how they are planning on continuing the Pac-12, okay? So it's the Mountain West Conference that each school, Washington State and Oregon State, will play 6 games with the Mountain West Conference teams. 3 home games and 3 away games. then they will play each other, and it's not out of the question that they might play each other twice, once at each stadium.
Stadium. Yeah.
So they have 8 games in conference. They have an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in this agreement, Washington State and Oregon State have agreed to pay the Mountain West $14 million for them to do this for one season. $14 million. And the agreement is that they're going to allow them to play 6 games each. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to take it another step further, they get to keep the Pac-12 logo, and everything will stay the same. And how that's going to happen is, technically, you're supposed to stay above 8 teams in a conference, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a clause that says to get back if you fall below. So Oregon State and Washington State is going to use that 2-year grace period starting in July of 2024. It doesn't even start till then. They're going to use that 2-year grace period and continue the Pac-12 in hopes that they can figure out an agreement or reach an agreement or bring some teams in and continue the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people have probably thought that the Pac-12 was just going to go away after this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really the case. And on top of that, the college football playoff conference winners berth, starting in 2024, the winners of the top 6 conferences in their rankings will get an automatic berth. Well, that is technically still up in the air for next year with the Pac-12, because by law, with that 2-year grace period, they can't technically be stripped of that automatic berth.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that one of those 2 teams will make the college football playoff next year unless they work something out with them. It's possible one of those 2 teams will make it next year and the year after, because it's a 2-year grace period.
Mm-hmm.
Into the college football playoff.
It's pretty crazy.
Now, is that not crazy?
It's pretty wild.
I mean, I was reading the whole story today and I was like, oh my God, like, wow. I mean, I can't even believe what I'm reading, some of this.
Well,
First of all,
and 2, I think, Washington State and Oregon State stand, I think, is a really good thing, because you don't want to dismantle the conference. You don't want to just be like, just throw it away. You want to at least have it intact. And I think that's what they're doing. They don't want to just, ruin this conference and go to a different league.
The Pac-12 has a 100-year history.
They do, and especially in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, they have a 100-year history.
Basketball is getting better as well with, Arizona and these other teams, and a lot of those are moving on too. So I think this is a great thing. I think it's a big thing. And, playing a team twice in a season, I don't think that's ever happened, has it? Unless it's been the NFL. NFL plays home and home.
I mean, no, probably not.
NFL plays home and home, but
yeah. not in college football.
No, not in college, but in the pros they do. They play home and home. They'll play one away and one home.
Yet. Yeah. It didn't say that they had come to that agreement yet, but it's likely that they will play those 6 games and then play at each other's, place and play twice. So they can technically say that they had 8 conference games. Now, is this they're supposed to be bleeding money in the Pac-12. And somehow they come to an agreement that they're going to have to pay, and the schools are paying this, not the Pac-12, because they don't have full control of the Pac-12 yet.
Mm-mm.
So Washington State and Oregon State has agreed to pay the Mountain West $14 million to do this for 1 year. So if they do it 2 years, they'll have to pay $28 million probably.
That's where you get in the spot where.
So again, if you're just joining, you want to see it, I will play the slides through.
You're probably going to have to, in that grace period time, you're going to probably have to find more. You're going to have to start looking for teams to join the Pac-12 and figure things out.
Yeah, they will.
So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They have 2 years. And if they can't get above 8 teams, they have to get above to 8 teams or above in order to be able to keep their conference intact and not fold and be by the bylaws and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I just thought I would worry that we've never really seen before.
You cut out. I couldn't hear you.
In college sports, period. It's just something different we've never seen before,
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move on. I'm going to call these our no-fly zone topics for the night. I'm going to start with this. The College Football Playoff Committee. Your take on what the committee did? Do you think they made mistakes? Do you think they got it right? What's your takes on it, John?
Well, I feel like Florida State got the bad end of the deal because, they had their quarterback get hurt, Jordan Travis, and that was a tough break for them. But I look back at a video. It was maybe a week before Travis got hurt, and they was already debating whether FSU should have been in it or not, regardless of the injury. And see, that's where I have an issue with the whole ESPN and Kurt Herbstreit deal, because he said had FSU been in, if Jordan Travis would have been, healthy and available to play, they would have got in. But the week before that, before he even got hurt, he even went on a tangent about how it was a debatable team. It's sort of this and this and this. Like I don't agree with that. The way they did Florida State, but I realize why they did it, because Alabama beat Georgia. I get it. And I'm gonna say this, and people might get mad about this, but this is just how it is. If you were sitting at that table that night and you knew Alabama had to beat Georgia, and they was going into the college football playoff, you would have known that if they win that game, they're going in that college football playoff no matter what. And I felt like that's what happened. And I think the issue with Texas was Texas beat Alabama and they got a nod. And that I think that's what knocked Georgia out was the whole Texas thing against Alabama. I think Alabama beat Georgia.
But I have an issue. I'll get into each team a little bit. Because I have an issue. My issue is not with what everybody else is saying. I have a completely different issue. So
Well, I do
get
too.
into that with
I have the FSU
but
one.
my take on the college football playoff.
But there's one team for me that got screwed out of all this, and that's Georgia. Georgia was what, number one? And they dropped from all the way from number one to number 6, number 5. Like
Number 6.
Where's the transparency, folks?
And lost to Alabama. They
only lost to Alabama, but they won their other games that they've won. Like Georgia fans have a bite to, chew on, because it kind of felt like, hey, Alabama wins this game, and because Alabama beat us, we didn't deserve it. But if you watch some of the other games that they play, I mean, yeah, they did. They struggled in a few of them. They didn't have Brock Bowers. They didn't have Ladd McConkey. But at the same time, a couple of these other teams didn't have it either early in the year, and they still got in. Like,
well, so
that's my biggest.
Here's what I'm going to say about the committee, okay? You got 13 guys in there that's deciding on who they think are the 4 teams that deserve to get into the college football playoff. I'm going to start with this. They have a ranking each week starting at the very end of October, 1st of November. And to me, if you're going to have a ranking, you have to use that ranking leading up to the time where it's time to pick your 4 teams, okay? And by that I mean, if a team is in the 7th spot or the 8th spot, the only way that they should be able to jump 3 or 4 spots is if they are playing a team that's above them. I'm sorry, I don't care about conference championships and all that kind of stuff. If they're playing a team that's above them, then I think they should have a real shot of jumping 3 or 4 spots. If they're playing a team that's below them and they win a championship, if you want to move them a spot or 2, okay. But jumping 3 or 4 spots should not happen, if you ask me. And my second thing on the committee is this. College football prides itself on every game matters. Every week matters. Everybody talks about it. Except when it came time to do this, Florida State's entire schedule didn't matter. When you go undefeated, and there's 3 undefeated teams in the country, and you have a 4-team playoff, hello, it's really not that hard. I mean, there's 3 teams, it's undefeated, and there's 4 spots. It's not 3 teams and 2 spots. It's 3 teams and 4 spots. It's really not that difficult. So that's where I'll start with this. I'm going to go on into FSU, John, and I'll start it. I mean, y'all, I just said it when I was doing this. College football for years and years has talked about the importance of every week and each week and winning games. All that matters is winning. That's what they've said for years and years and years. You got 13 guys sitting in a conference room in Dallas somewhere that want to discredit an entire team's work. 85 guys, 100 guys, counting walk-ons and everybody else. Don't give me the Travis, the can't even think of his name, Jordan Travis injury crap. There are 85 guys, scholarship guys, on that team that matter. And I just don't see how, with 4 spots and 3 teams that are undefeated, how you leave one of them out. We're not talking about Liberty here, guys. I mean, Liberty is undefeated as well, okay?
But they're a G5, and they didn't have really enough ammo to get into the college football playoff. Now, they did get a big bowl, but
right. And they deserve that because they went through their schedule and they deserve to have that big bowl. They deserve that. Guess what? Power conference team that goes undefeated deserves to not have their entire schedule not matter at all.
Well, I'm gonna go in a little. I'm gonna go in a little deeper on the FSU thing. So they beat a really good LSU team. I felt like LSU improved as the year went on. They beat a good Clemson team on the road. They had a few hiccups here and there where they didn't play really well. Late in the year, even with Travis, there was a couple games where they struggled. But even in the games that Travis did not play, they still won those games. And you're telling me that to be undefeated, like let's look at TCU
with
last
a backup
year.
And a third string.
Let's look at TCU last year. TCU gets in like that, and they lose. Actually, they ended up losing the Big 12 championship, if I'm not mistaken. And then they ended up going to the college football playoff. Well, everybody was saying, well, TCU's not going to do anything in the college football playoff. So they go in and they beat Michigan, right? Well, and then they lose to Georgia in pretty dominant fashion. See, here's the difference with that. If somebody said, well, they was going to get the TCU treatment where if they won, they was going to get whipped in the championship game. Don't give me that, because FSU is a completely different team than what TCU was a year ago. And you're telling me that a top-ranked defense, running back play that they got and the wide receivers that they can't come out and they can't compete for a national championship? Are you telling me that they can't do that? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let you have the floor.
I mean, I agree.
But I'm going to say this, but I'm going to let you have the floor. If I'm FSU, after the bowl game, after they play Georgia in the Orange Bowl, I file for a whatever it is, an exit from the ACC, and I put my hat in the SEC, and I get to play back, and I get to go play some football. I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you what's hurting the college football play. They looked at the ACC and said, well, they're not good enough because of their schedule. But you beat a team.
But the ACC, well, I'll get into that in a second.
That's another thing.
I'll get into
So-
that with the conference stuff in a second. I
Well,
guess.
my biggest thing,
But,
biggest thing
I mean,
is games matter, where they're played, and how they're won. You know, they beat a good LSU team. They beat a really good Clemson team. That Clemson has won what? 4 out of the last 5, or maybe 5 games at the end of the year? They're actually playing Clemson football, and you're telling me that, and everybody's probably thinking, well, Clemson's not Clemson like they normally are. No, but you went into Clemson, you went into Death Valley, and you beat them on the road. Does that not count? It's what you're telling me is that game does not count. That's a bunch of bull, man. That's just me. But
all their games didn't count, to be honest with you, if you ask me. Now, I'm going to get into something here that hardly anybody else is talking about, okay? And I'm going to start this one because I got something to say when it comes to the Texas Longhorns, okay? So I talked about those rankings and that they should matter. They start in November and they each week and they build up. Texas has been locked in at number 7. They've been locked in at number 7. Okay? Leading up to all this, they were locked in at number 7. Now, I'm going to give you something here, and I want you to tell me how in the world the Texas Longhorns jumped 4 spots on Sunday. How? And I'm going to give you why I'm saying that. The Texas Longhorns played a 3-loss Oklahoma State team that was ranked around 20th in their championship game. The Florida State Seminoles played the 14th ranked 10-2 Louisville Cardinals. Alabama Crimson Tide, who was 8th ranked, played the number 1 undefeated team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, you tell me, how in the world did Texas win equal the same amount of moving up spots that Alabama's did? Alabama moved up, been in the same spot and winning each week and kept in the same spot, in the 7th spot. I realize they won a Big 12 championship, but let me ask you this. Does a 1-loss Big 12 champion deserve to be in over a undefeated ACC champion? How the hell does that happen, man? I don't understand it. So everybody in the world right now is harping on Alabama. Alabama this, Alabama that. SEC gets favor. Alabama this and Alabama that. And Saban this. And everybody in the damn country is harping on Alabama. The real culprit here is the Texas Longhorns.
You can't tell me.
I'm sorry, but the difference between the Big 12, the difference between the Big 12 and the ACC in the conference rankings is not that great. There's no way a 1-loss Big 12 team should be in over a 0-loss ACC team.
I'm going to tell you my theory.
Michigan, Washington, FSU, and then Bama. And Texas should be out. That's who should be out.
I'm going to tell you exactly what my theory is. And some might not like this. Some might not like this, but this is what I'm going to go with. I think that Texas got in there because they knew they was going to put Alabama in there, and they wanted a rematch. From early in, what was it, October, September, something like that?
Yeah.
I think they wanted
Because
a rematch.
Texas beat them in the head-to-head, which
In the
kept
head-to-head.
Texas above Bama. It kept them above Bama in that ranking, 7 and 8 all along. But I'm telling you that when you beat the number one undefeated team who has only lost one game in the last 3 years, compared to beating a 3-loss Oklahoma State team, who should be in and who shouldn't?
Alabama and
The
Florida
SEC,
State.
I said for 3 weeks. I said for 3 weeks before this, I said that if Bama beats Georgia, they get in.
I said it. I said it
for
2
3
weeks. I said it 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. I said Alabama is going to run the table. And I said, if they run the table and they beat Georgia in the SEC title game, they're going to the college football playoff because that's just what's going to happen.
The SEC was not going to get left out.
Nope.
Yeah.
It was either put Alabama in.
I mean, not with the way it was.
It was,
Now,
it was either put Alabama in
if
with
Texas
that win.
was undefeated and you're looking at 4 undefeated teams, then maybe the SEC gets left out.
Here's the thing that I thought about during the game Saturday night is, Alabama wins. They don't put them in just because that they only won that one game. But if you do it that way, what was it, a couple of years back, Alabama or somebody got, I think it was Georgia, maybe Alabama. They done the same thing and they ended up getting in. I felt like, the loser that game lost and still got into the field. I didn't see that happening this year. It was either whoever won this game and whoever lost this game, one of them was going, one of them was going home. And I told people that. I told people that 24 hours before the game started.
With the crowded field at the front.
I told people this before the game
right.
started.
I mean, with the crowded field at the top with the undefeated teams.
I said that the loser of this game is going to be out of the college football playoff. Whoever loses this game is going to be out. People say, oh, no, Georgia's going to be in there. They'll be in there because they only got one loss. I said, no.
Because of the crowded field at the top.
I said, because the field the way it was. And that's what happened. And we got people mad. We got
the field was crowded at the top.
It was. And now we got people, we got FSU fans and Kurt Herbstreit going at each other's necks. Like, Kurt Herbstreit's losing some fans with Florida State. Let me just tell you, he's getting railroaded right now on Twitter. So, well, his comments is what throws it off.
Florida State fans have every right to be mad. But the other thing is this, John, they're mad at the wrong team. They're mad at Alabama is who they're mad at. And the reason why they're mad at Alabama is because Alabama was slotted in the 4th spot. Okay. Yeah. Which is where Alabama should have been. But the real travesty in all of this is that FSU, an ACC undefeated team, was left out over a 1-loss Big 12
Texas team.
Yeah. The Big 12 is the conference. The Big 12 should not be in over the SEC. Mm-mm. I'm sorry. Not when Alabama had to beat Georgia to get in.
Now here's another theory that I have. And this is where I was going to kind of bring it in with the whole Georgia thing. is where I think Georgia fans got screwed and Georgia got screwed is because Texas should be Texas.
I mean, it sucks
Georgia
for Georgia. I will fully agree.
Georgia should be in front of Texas, in my opinion. But if we're being fair, FSU probably, if we're looking at it from that angle, FSU probably gets in over Georgia, and that leaves Alabama because Alabama wins. See, I told people 24 hours, like I said a minute ago, 24 hours before this game even started, I was in a space, and somebody said they will never leave Georgia out. And I said, I'm telling you right now, if Alabama wins this game, Georgia's not getting into the college football playoff. I said, they're not getting in. They're not.
I didn't think there was either. It wasn't like the field last year. The fifth team last year had 2 losses. It was a little
softer. Yeah, it was a little softer last year. Yeah.
The 5th team in the rankings last year had 2 losses. So the field was different than it is this time. This time, the 8th team had 2 losses. So the field was completely different this time than it was last year.
Yeah.
It was top heavy. There was going to be conference championships or conference champions. There was going to be 0 loss teams, and there was going to be a couple of 2 or 3 1-loss teams. Well, just like Georgia over Texas. Well, it's kind of hard to do that when Georgia is the non-champion, because you do have to measure those championship games, or else why do you have them? You do have to measure those conference championship games. If you don't, why do you have them?
Something funny come up to me. I posted something, I think it was a couple of days ago. Mike Leach had made a comment
talking about Ohio State
back when he was coaching for Washington State. He said, "Let's build us a committee." He said, "Let's get us a bunch of guys on a committee." And he said, "We don't know nothing." He said, and at the same time, he said, "Do the games really matter? Do they really matter?" He said, No, because we know all. The committee knows all. A bunch of guys in the room knows everything. And he was spot on. You got a bunch of guys in a room that ain't never played a down of football in their life making decisions.
Yep.
I just thought that was funny.
10 guys in
just let
Dallas.
them have it. Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out while on our show, I wanted to point out that I firmly believe that all of this fuss and stuff over Alabama getting in is the wrong team to be looking at. I fully think that Texas is the team who jumped 4 spots who shouldn't have. There's no way that a 1-loss Big 12 team should be in over an undefeated ACC team. And that would leave Alabama and Texas as the championship winners, conference winners. And Alabama had to beat Georgia, and Texas had to beat Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's enough statement to say the head-to-head is not going to matter.
No.
That's just Michigan, Washington, FSU, and Alabama.
There we are.
Did you do?
I don't know what
did you do that, or
no,
did it just take you out?
I really didn't do that. I don't know what happened. Just disappeared on you.
I don't know either. It just took you out for a second.
Playing magic tricks
I
on Brad.
don't know. All right.
But
All right. With that said, the college football playoffs right now, if you haven't figured it out, is Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. That's the 4 teams that got in.
yeah, and I'm not really going to
With the
go
4 teams,
and I'm really not going to go. I'm not really going to go into the whole Washington, Michigan type thing because those 2 teams deserved to be there. It's these 2 right here that we just speaking on that I feel like, well, Alabama.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Alabama maybe, but Texas definitely not. But Michigan and Washington did what they had to do. Washington had a gauntlet of a schedule. If anybody deserves to be there, it's Washington because of the gauntlet that they play. They went through 3 or 4 teams in a matter of weeks and just absolutely took care of business.
Yeah.
And that's not to be overlooked.
No, I mean, that's but that's the 4 teams in the college football playoff. Now, with all this uproar and everything that's going on, I want to ask you this. Aren't you glad in 2024 that we're going to have a 12-team playoff?
I do. I like it from the aspect that you'll get to see games at, the first round games. Well, I guess second round at these people's opponents' fields. It's going to create a home field advantage, and it'll make a difference in how the teams get to the Final Four and how the final 2 to play for the national championship. I think it changes a lot of things. I think teams that you didn't see make it, say, for instance, the teams like LSU that was just outside the Outback. We're talking, if you really think about it, the Citrus Bowl is right next to a New Year's Six, and Tennessee would probably been in the college football playoff in the top 12 if we're really looking at numbers. Them are LSU, and I just think it would change. It's going to change a lot of things. It's going to make a difference, I think, and it's going to push. I eventually see this going to an 18 team before it's said and done. I think it'll be bigger than 12 eventually. It'll be like the March Madness. It's going to be like March Madness eventually, where everybody gets involved.
Yeah, it might be.
Everybody gets a chance to play.
12 teams is going to be fun. You're right. The home environments is going to be an insane atmosphere. But I will say this year, the way it fell in those home environments, we would have gotten Ohio State and Penn State playing each other again. And we would have gotten Georgia and Ole Miss again.
Yeah.
And we just seen that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Georgia beat the crap out of them. And I'm not so sure that I would be super excited about seeing 2 rematches. That was kind of unfair. If it happened like that this time, but
yeah,
like in like we got, who is it? Ohio State's playing in the bowl game. Ohio State and Missouri. Like that would be a good matchup,
I'm going to tell you what's crazy to me is
hopefully
you know,
we'll get some matchup.
This whole bowl thing Sunday was absolutely crazy. You know, I was looking at it from the ACC perspective. You know, it knocked everything out of place Sunday when Louisville, actually Saturday when Louisville didn't beat FSU. And a lot of people penciled Louisville as being a New Year's Six team. Everybody thought that Louisville's going to, regardless, they're going to be in the New Year's Six. Well, Ole Miss skipped them and jumped ahead of them and went to the Peach Bowl. Well, that knocked everything out of order. And then you got to the point where we was hearing things like, well, Louisville teams don't even want the bowl spots did not even want to pick Louisville. Like we was getting to that. And I'm thinking choices. Yeah. I was thinking, you know what? I was making a joke about it today. I said, Kentucky broke Louisville. They beat Kentucky beat Louisville. And then Louisville did not want nobody wanted Louisville to play in their games. So Kentucky got a better bowl. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But
they did.
Yeah. And everybody thought Louisville was a shoe-in for a college, for a New Year's Six. Everybody thought they was. And then when Ole Miss showed up in the Peach Bowl, I was kind of surprised when Ole Miss appeared. I was really surprised. I can't believe they jumped that far up, but they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, Ole Miss has 2 losses and Louisville now has 3. So,
yeah, but I tell you what really hurt Louisville when they lost to Kentucky. If they had beat Kentucky, they would have probably been a New Year's Six bowl. That's just my opinion. If they beat Kentucky, they're pretty much in, a shoe in.
Yeah, I think they would have if they would have beat Kentucky. Louisville, yeah, absolutely. Before we end all this talk about all this, I'm going to go back to FSU for just a minute. This doesn't have anything to do with the actual college football playoff. But I have heard rumors that the AP poll and the coaches poll voters are going to be open to the idea if a 1-loss Alabama or a 1-loss Texas wins the college football playoff and FSU was to beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, not Sugar Bowl, Cotton.
Orange Bowl.
Aren't they? What are they in? Orange Bowl. Okay. If they were to beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl and still be undefeated, that the voters of the coaches and the AP poll, number one, and as the poll champions. And I bring this up because this is the way it used to be a long time ago in college football, even before the BCS. It was who was voted number one. That's how it used to be like 25 years ago, all the way to 50, 70 years ago. That's how it used to be.
Yeah,
and it's interesting to me with the way this is played out.
I think it was 97, 98.
Maybe
I think Nebraska
FSU gets a championship.
I think Nebraska had won it one year, and
there's been split champions because of
Michigan. Michigan won it, I think, in '97 in the Rose Bowl when they played Washington State and Ryan Leaf. Michigan had the split, and I think Nebraska ended up winning the next night. It might have been they might beat Tennessee, maybe Florida. I can't remember that far back, but it was either Florida or Tennessee. I know it was an SEC team, and Michigan ended up beating Washington State because that was the year that Charles Woodson ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, it was Tennessee, Dave. That's who I thought it was.
Yeah.
It was Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay.
That's when they had Peyton Manning.
I really don't remember.
If
But
I remember
I'm just
correctly,
saying it's pretty interesting that
that was the year that they had
with
Scott
all of
Frost.
this happening,
They had Scott Frost, I think. Nebraska did. I think that was the quarterback.
yeah, there used to be some split champions. And it happened a lot, to be honest. I mean, over the years, over 50, 60 years. And I think it's pretty interesting, even with the college football playoff, with them leaving an undefeated team out, it just could happen again, which is kind of weird. That was the whole reason that the college football playoff and the BCS was created to start with.
I couldn't hear you.
Is so that we would
you
end
broke
that
up really bad.
and not have split champions. Oh, okay. I'm just saying that's how it started,
I
and
just couldn't
to
hear you.
end, so we wouldn't have split champions, and it could happen again, which is kind of weird.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to move on to a little bit of college basketball before we close out the show. There's some games on tonight. John, I'll let you talk about some college basketball and talk about some of these games.
Well,
that's on
I'll just
tonight,
go through.
so-
I'll just go through the
I
college
know
scoreboard.
the Jimmy.
I'll just go through the
Okay.
scoreboard and just update what's the score. All right. So Utah Valley, Weber State, 70-54. These are just games in general. I'm not going to pick all the little teams. I'm just going to pick like here and there games. Middle Tennessee State beat Missouri State in overtime. Georgia beat Georgia Tech after Georgia Tech beat Duke 76-62 in Athens. So Georgia Tech beats Duke, then they lose to Georgia. Go figure. Go figure.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. High Point beat Western Carolina. High Point is Tubby Smith's old school alma mater. They are a really good basketball team this year. They got a chance to win that conference this year. Princeton beat Drexel. Princeton is still undefeated on the season. I think that makes them 8-0, 9-0, something like that. Wisconsin beat Michigan State. This is one that you're going to – you talked about Tom Izzo. You said that there's going to be problems. They lost again tonight on the road at home by 13 points. So there's some problems going on right now in East Lansing. Kansas State beats Villanova on a buzzer beater in overtime. Villanova has lost 3 games to Philly schools, and now they lose a heartbreaker to Kansas State. That's just tough for them. Florida beats Merrimack. Akron beats Bradley. Another team, Oklahoma, is 8-0. They beat Providence 72-51. Oklahoma, they have a really good player in Javion McCullum. He had 19 points tonight. Delaware beats Xavier. Xavier loses a bye game at home to Delaware. 87-80.
Southeast. The home of the Southeast Fighting Purple Guppies, Delaware.
The Fighting Hens. Tennessee beats George Mason.
I'm just messing.
Tennessee beats George Mason 87-66. Adu had 17 points. Illinois beats Fort Atlantic. I'm going to tell you something. To me, the best guard in the country right now is Terrence Shannon Jr. 33 points for Illinois tonight. He is he's one of the best players I've seen in a while. You know, he's even getting better. He was good at Texas Tech, and he's gotten even better at Illinois. Boston College beats Central Connecticut State 82-68. And games going currently. Kansas leads Missouri KC 88-69. Baylor leads Seton Hall at halftime by 10. BYU is beating Evansville 50-25 in the second half. Connecticut is ahead of North Carolina.
BYU's playing some good ball.
They are. Connecticut's leading North Carolina
BYU
44-36.
Good ball. Mark Pope is out there. I just want to say Mark Pope is doing a great job at BYU.
Almost halftime there. Connecticut's ahead of North Carolina by like 7 or 8 points. San Diego State trails Grand Canyon 35-28. If you've never watched Grand Canyon play basketball, folks, you're in for a treat. That's probably one of my favorite arenas. They get into it. That's a hard place to go play. That conference, they usually rule that they've ruled it, I think, the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. So they're a fun group to watch. Indiana is behind 2 at halftime to Michigan. For me, this is a big game for Michigan. It's 39-37.
What's going on with him?
I really don't know.
What's going on with Indiana?
They're just not as good as they was last 2 years.
But they brought in Ware and stuff. I mean,
that's up to date. Oh no, Oklahoma State and Southern Illinois are tied at the half 34-34. Games later tonight, there's not really a whole bunch. I think a mid-major game. Cleveland State goes to St. Mary's, which St. Mary's is another team that's kind of went down the hole this season so far.
They have kind of went down this year, St. Mary's.
They have.
Yeah.
So
they have.
Looking forward to tomorrow night. There's not a lot of games tomorrow night. That there's a few. South Carolina goes to Clemson. Both teams undefeated. Texas goes to Marquette. That should be a fun game. Shaka Smart plays his old team. That should be a lot of fun.
That's probably the marquee game.
And then you got Texas San Francisco.
Be a fun one. Yeah.
San Francisco actually travels to Vanderbilt. That's unusual to see a team from the West Coast go that far to play a basketball game, but they do. But other than that, there's not a lot of really good games on tomorrow night. So that's caught you up on college basketball. This weekend, though, there's quite a bit of basketball. There's a lot of games on Saturday. I'll go through the Saturday games here real quick before we get off. Let's see. Illinois goes to Tennessee. That's a CBS game at 12 o'clock. That should be a fun game to watch. Let's see here. Purdue goes to Alabama. Actually, no, that's in Toronto. I'm sorry. Mistaken. That's in Toronto, Ontario. Purdue plays Alabama. Kansas State plays LSU. Let's see here. Louisville goes to DePaul. That should be interesting. Auburn, they play Indiana at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. That should be a fun game to watch. Trying to think. Wisconsin, they travel to Arizona Saturday. That's the 3:15 game. TCU goes to Clemson. Actually, no, that's in Toronto, Canada too. On Toronto, Ontario. I think that's part of a doubleheader with Purdue and Alabama. Let's see here. Missouri goes to Kansas this weekend. Let me see. I think that's pretty much all in the top 25 bracket. And Gonzaga travels to Washington to face the Huskies. That should be fun, considering Severe Wheeler and them get to and Keon Brooks get to play their.
Yeah, they've been playing pretty good out there so far.
But I will say this in terms of the basketball slate. If you haven't looked at the slate for December 16th, please go look at it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers. Pretty good.
And I can't wait to cover it and do game day pick'ems on it and stuff. It's going to be fun.
Oh, it's going to be bonkers. It's going to be bonkers.
Yeah.
It's going to be bonkers.
We'll do some game day pick'em. Speaking of that, that's our next show Thursday night. Catch us for our game day pick'ems. We will probably pick the Army-Navy game. It's the only college football game this week. And then we will also pick some basketball games over the weekend.
The Heisman Trophies this weekend, I think. The Heisman Trophies this weekend, I believe.
Yeah, the Heisman.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we could do a pick 'em on the Heisman Trophy. You want to do a pick 'em on the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, that's fine. You know who I'm picking. You know who I'm picking.
Do that on Thursday.
You know exactly who I'm picking.
Was announced. The top 4 was announced yesterday. Jaden Daniels,
Bo Nix,
Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison.
And just so y'all know, this guy right here told y'all that Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to make the final stages.
I just don't think
at the beginning of the year, before the season started,
he'll be there.
I said he was going to be there.
I just don't think he'll win it. The quarterback play was not consistent.
I didn't say he was going to win it. I said he'd be there. And he
quarterback play for me this year, Kyle McCord had some really difficult games. And Marvin Harrison he had a great year, but he just didn't have the year that I thought he would have, But he's there.
But he's still there. I said he would be there. Yeah. He's there.
Yep.
Just saying, NFL. Hello, NFL. He should be the number 1 pick. I'm just saying. Number 1 pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. Just saying. Forget these quarterbacks. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr. Just saying.
Yeah.
Dude is elite and unreal. Absolutely. All right, guys, that's going to be our show. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. Catch us on Thursday for our game day pick'ems, and we'll have a little bit of fun with you. Make sure you go around after watching our show this week. Make sure you go around on social media and tell everybody that Texas is the issue and not Alabama. Okay?